Hi everyone, this is actually my second attempt at filming this video because I got halfway through it and realized I filmed it vertically and it was going to look terrible, so I am doing it again. But this is answering your questions about semester at sea. I got a bunch of questions from both my Instagram and my YouTube, and thank you so much to everyone who asked questions and DM'd me and had great questions that I think a lot of people are going to have about semester at sea. So if you feel like you have a question that someone else probably has as well, feel free to stick around. Please stick around, and I will do my best to answer them. Okay, so the first question I got, and I have my questions all typed out on this side, which is why I'm going to be repeatedly looking over here. But the first question I got was, how much do field programs cost? And this varies greatly. So they can range from $25 to $2,000, and it just depends what you want to do. I did one in Hawaii. I went to Pearl Harbor and it was $25 for the day. That was just a day trip. And I had one booked to go to the Great Wall and do a lot of the main sites in China. And I think that one was close to 2,000. And the one in China was, every night we were there, they had booked hotels, all travel is planned. That's the nice thing about field programs is you show up the day of and everything's planned for you and you follow the leader and you have no work. But they vary. And I'd say the average is somewhere between $500 and $800, and these are all overnight trips. So I don't think there was anything more than $200 that was a day trip. Don't quote me on that. But the day trips were significantly cheaper than overnights because they are factoring in your hotel. So it depends on what you want to do. And if you only want to do day trips, you're going to be able to do that in semi-inexpensively, depending on what you want to do. However, if you're doing the overnight trips, you can really, really push how much they're going to be. Okay, this next question is a great question that I think a lot of people have when they're looking at any study abroad. And it's, can you take major classes or do you mostly take GE style classes? And this depends on your major. So SAS did not offer a lot of STEM classes outside of like oceanography or natural sciences that they could do without a lab. We had no lab sciences. I don't think we had any math classes. Obviously, no engineering, nothing like that. So STEM was very, very limited. So if you're a STEM major, you're probably not going to be taking major classes, you'll be taking GEs. However, there were 70 different courses offered on the ship, most of which were liberal arts. So I'm a history major and I was taking major classes because they offered a bunch of history classes on my voyage. So I took, my puppy is dreaming on the floor over here if you can hear it. I took a bunch of major courses that were great for me. And I know a lot of my liberal arts major friends that were English majors were able to do that as well. It depends on what your major is. If you're a liberal arts major though, then yes, you can definitely take major courses. However, if you're a STEM major and you still really want to do this, I would plan way ahead and set aside your GEs to take. Okay, so my next question I got a variation of a couple of times, so I'm going to answer this one. But what do I have to pay for besides cabin and visas? And again, this is a lot of things in these questions is it's going to vary based on person to person. However, the one thing you will definitely have to do is books. You are taking real classes, you need school supplies. You will have to buy your books, you'll have to buy notebooks, all of those things. You need spending money in these countries. You're going to buy things. Even if you do field programs every day, you're gonna wanna buy souvenirs. I personally allotted $5,000 in spending money to cover my entire trip, and I only had like 3 field programs booked. So that was for all my independent travel as well. I didn't come close to using that. My voyage was cut short, but I didn't come close to using that, and I think I allotted a lot more than most people did. So just because I said that, like, don't think, oh my God, I have to have $5,000 saved, because you do not. It's 100. If you could do the entire trip on $500, then like kudos to you, and I encourage you to do that. But you're also, be aware of how much you're gonna spend on souvenirs and stuff. So you'll need books, school supplies, spending money for independent travel and or souvenirs. If you wanna buy food that is not from the cafeteria, which you will want to because the cafeteria food is not very good. Just once in a while you need a break, and their french fries are amazing. You can buy from the grill or the snack bar and get those things. You will also want to account for things you'll buy from the bookstore, like sweatshirts or t-shirts or merch or any of that you'll need. And toiletries, because I thought I brought all my toiletries and I was in there all the time buying new toiletries, because you don't pack things because you think you don't need them and then you find out you do. So you'll need to account for all of those things as well. and that is person to person what we need to pay for. So books, supplies, spending money for souvenirs, independent travel money, and then anything you'll need from the store is what you'll need on top of the tuition and visas you pay for. Also, your shots. You'll have to get a lot of immunizations before you go. You'll have to pay for those too. Okay, so the next question is, what is it like being at sea for an extended period of time? And this is a good question, and I want everyone who is thinking about going on semester at sea to genuinely think about the answer to this, because it is really hard to be at sea for that long. And it's a lot of fun, and you are with your friends every day, but it is really hard. You don't have cell phone service. You're only really emailing with your friends. You have like no connection to the outside world. You get like 7 minutes of Wi-Fi a day, and you are just really, really isolated. And it's really easy to feel that isolation when you are at sea for an extended period of time. Now, when you're getting off in the countries, it's so much fun. You like get back on the ship, everyone talks about what they did, and it was great. But the like 12-day stretches where you're at sea for 12 days are really hard, and they're mentally taxing. And if you are one of those people that like really easily falls into that like mindset, because I know I did a few times, where you're like, I just feel really alone, then you have to be prepared for how it can get really, really lonely to be at sea for 12 plus days. At one point we were at sea and the closest human being to the ship was on the International Space Station. Like, that's how far we were from any life form. So it can be really, really hard to be at sea for 12 plus days at a time. It's just very isolating from the world we're used to, where we're connected 24/7 and you are so unconnected, but you are with your friends every day. You're playing board games, you're doing all those fun things, and you just have to like be like, okay, well in 12 days we'll be on land again. And if you're able to keep that mindset, then it's easy to get through, but it can be mentally taxing at times to be at sea for 12 plus days because you're just not used to it. And I think that's something that I know I didn't consider, the fact that that could be a really hard 12 days for me, but it's definitely something to think about. Like, how am I going to spend 12 days? Can I email my friends that I need more contact? And if you have that support system, it is definitely better. Okay, the next question is, what was the most surprising thing that you weren't expecting about the program? This one for me, a lot of it was very surprising, but I think for me it was the professors and how amazing they were. I kind of assumed that they would be taking this as their vacation. Their spouses, their partners, their children are on the voyage with them, and I kind of thought they'd be treating it like a mini vacation, but they were very serious. They were incredibly supportive. I have a learning disability, and every single one went to work with me on that, which I appreciated so much. They had dinner with you. They were your ship mom and dad. They were absolutely amazing. And I think that was what was most surprising for me, is how invested the professors were in all of their students. Okay, so the next question is, how badly did the ship rock? And I'm not gonna lie to you, she rocked, and she rocked hard. So the Pacific is a lot rougher than the Indian Ocean. And on the Pacific Ocean, we were feeling it. We had like 14 to 20 foot waves a couple of days, and it was just like this. Like, you were just going like this, and you were hitting the wall on each side as you walked. And it rocks. She rocks. And the follow-up was that I don't think I'd ever get used to the rocking. And you do actually get very, very used to the rocking. And you come to actually really like it. You like miss the rocking when you get on calm seas. You're like, where's the rocking? I miss it. But you can really rock. And I think I have a video of that. Like, I think my first vlog, and it's terrible. I don't recommend watching it, but I think you can see that people are like swaying. And on that vein, another question was, did you feel seasick? I did not feel seasick. I didn't get seasick at all. I don't get dizzy either. And we think that those two things are correlated, but I have no idea. However, most people did get very seasick at least once. You can see also in the first vlog, one of my roommates is going through it with seasickness the first night, and almost all of my friends had some seasickness issues, and it's super normal and everyone understands it, and they give you seasickness medicine on the ship to combat that. The next question is, what is the craziest thing that happened on the ship? And there was a lot. And out of respect for other people, I will not tell the crazy stories of what some people pulled on the ship. But I think the craziest experience on the ship was when we got denied entry to Seychelles like 24 hours before we were supposed to be there. And we had already been turned away from India and China, India, China, and Malaysia. And Seychelles government like issued a statement denying our entry, and that was pretty crazy. Our ship, like, they would show us our path, and our ship just went yeet, like the opposite way. And that was when we were like, we are having issues docking. And this is all for anyone who isn't aware. I was on spring 2020. COVID-19 was a huge thing, and that's why we got denied from Seychelles, was because of COVID-19. We didn't have any on the ship, but they were concerned that we did. And I think getting denied by a government 24 hours before we were supposed to dock was probably the craziest thing that happened on the ship, that we all like lived through on the ship together. So this next question is about COVID-19. As I said, I was on spring 2020, which was greatly impacted by COVID-19. And it is, when did things start to turn south due to Corona? So this is kind of a loaded question. So we were in Japan first, and then we got diverted from China. And at the time, this is when like no one was talking about it. And we were like, oh, that sucks. But it had been explained to us that if we skip China, the rest of our voyage would go on. And we were like, oh, okay. I mean, like, it's sad that we're missing one country, but we'd rather miss one than all. But I think when it like really started to go south was in Vietnam. In Vietnam, we were emailed that we would not be going to Malaysia or India because they had started to deny cruise ships, and we did not want to get stuck basically without supplies and get denied. So we made the decision, and by we I mean SAS, made the decision to not go. And I think that was like the beginning of the end. Getting turned away or being assumed we would be denied from India and Malaysia was just the beginning of the end, when we started just getting turned away and it wasn't going to work and borders were closing. And so I'd say that diversion was probably when things started going south, which would be, God, like mid to the end of February, probably. Like the third week of February is probably when things started to go south. Okay, so as you can tell by the lighting, it's later in the day. Currently making this video, and I realized it's going to be very long. So this is the end of part 1 of answering your questions about semester at sea. Tune in for the second video, because I still have a bunch of great questions, and I'll be answering things about the application and scholarships and how does laundry work and things like that. So if you still have questions, tune in to my next segment of answering your questions about semester at sea. Bye.